Steering wheel, somebody tell him to give it to me.
There's something loose between my legs.
I don't know. Let go!
I'm heavier than a freaking boat.
Nothing you can say can make that any better.
Yeah, nobody. No more radio for the rest of the race.
I'm going home. You.
Hello and welcome to DRS FC, an F1 podcast by soccer nerds. I have three soccer nerds here with me. Well, I have two soccer nerds. I just counted myself as one of the soccer nerds. I'm André Carlisle. I've got Donald Wine here, another soccer nerd. Donald, how are you?
I'm doing good. This is the rookie season, so it's good to talk about all the rookies that we're going to be having.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this one. Kyle, another soccer nerd. How are you, sir?
I'm pretty good. Ready to talk about these rookies and the hopes and dreams what we have set for them.
That almost sounded a little ominous, but yeah, that's what we're going to do in this episode. Rookie season, we're going to introduce the 6 new drivers that are going to be on the grid. You probably already heard about the first 3 that we did. Now we've got Ollie Bearman, Isack Hadjar, and Kimi Antonelli coming up on this episode. I don't think there's a whole lot to say to get y'all ready for it. Just note that when we talk about F2, when you hear about F2's format is a little bit different than F1. In fact, a lot different. They do a sprint race and a feature race each weekend. They had 14 of them in 2024. So the vibe is a little bit different. So you'll hear a lot about maybe he did poorly in the sprint but recovered in the feature race or vice versa. So when we talk about F2, just know the format isn't exactly one-to-one from F1, but we'll get into all of that as we go. So let's start off with Ollie Bearman. We're going to start off with Ollie, and I'm really excited to learn a bit more about Ollie. I'll do Isack Hadjar. I'll introduce that and what to kind of expect from him, and then we'll wrap up with Kimi Antonelli. So let's get into it. Ollie Bearman, Donald Wine has this one. He's going to tell us all about Ollie and his path to F1.
Yeah, Oliver Bearman, the Bear. Season 1 starts now for him, although he had a couple of cameo appearances in F1 before. But let's start with the kid. He's 19 years old, young kid, English, and he's going to be riding for Haas this year, which has a Ferrari engine. His personality, real quick, it's fun. He looks like he does some partying. Like, he's 18 now, so he's of age to do so in Europe. So it looks like he does a little bit of that. He might have that what I call lasagna riz. Like, you know, he in these streets, but you know he can pull them. And he's very friendly around fans. All the fans interactions you'll see on social media, a lot of the interactions that he has with fans, they all come away very enamored with him and just his politeness and just his friendliness. So that's really cool. His fun fact: his father is the founder and CEO of Aventum Group, which is an insurance firm. I don't know how big it is, but his dad is in charge of that. So, or at least is the founder of that particular firm. So let's get into Ollie Bearman and what he has done to this point in his bio. Again, he was born in May 2005. So for me, that's very old. I was in law school when this kid was born. He is doing bigger and better things than I ever will, which, it is what it is. This 19-year-old kid doing big things. But he was born outside of London and grew up in Chelmsford, which is in the Essex area of England. He began karting competitively in 2013 and kind of did that for about 6 or 7 years. Obviously, he was still very young. But in 2020, he moved to Formula 4 karting. And there was 2 championships that are kind of the main championships in Formula 4, which is the ADAC, which is the German championship, and the Italian F4 championship. In 2021, he won them both, which is very, very good. And that prompted him to join the Ferrari Driver Academy at the age of 16, just shortly after. And so in 2022, he competed in Formula 3, which now we're in the lesser end of the real cars. We're not go-karting anymore. But he competed in Formula 3. He finished 3rd. He had a win in 8 podiums for Prema Racing, and that prompted his team to bump him up to Formula 2. And keep in mind, he was 17 years old in his Formula 2 debut, so he's still a very young kid. Finished 6th in Formula 2 in 2023 with 4 wins and 6 podiums. And then in 2023, he was 12th with 3 wins and had 3 podiums, just the 3 wins there. In 2024, he returned to Formula 2, but he was starting to get some buzz in late 2023. Haas brought him in 2023 to be a test driver in Mexico City and Abu Dhabi, and they clearly had their eyes on him, despite the fact that he was in the Ferrari Academy, and that continued in 2024. However, Ferrari, of course, he's in their academy, and Ferrari was the one that gave him his first shot in Formula One. That happened on the second race of the year when Carlos Sainz got appendicitis and had to sit out for a couple of weeks. Carlos Sainz out. Ollie Bearman was the guy who subbed in for him in Saudi Arabia. He finished 7th in that race, which is incredible. He's the youngest driver to ever compete for Ferrari and the youngest driver to ever get points in their F1 debut. So a lot of people kind of looked at this Bearman kid saying, who is he? And a lot of people started talking about whether or not he could be a part of this driver carousel that always happens around the time of summer. He then was a test driver for Haas in a couple of races in Italy and Spain. And then on July 4th, Haas announced that Bearman had been signed to serve as one of their drivers beginning with the 2025 season. He will operate as a teammate for Esteban Ocon with Haas. He then continued to be a test driver in Silverstone and Hungary, and then subbed for Kevin Magnussen twice later on in the year. Magnussen had that race ban in Azerbaijan, so he had to sit out one. Ollie Bearman subbed for him on that. And then there was one in Abu Dhabi where Magnussen was sick, and he finished there. So he finished 10th and 12th in those races. Was also a test driver for Ferrari in Mexico City and finished with 7 points, which would have been good for 18th in the Drivers' Championship. Now he gets a shot to be a full-time Formula One driver at just 19 years old. Now, my expectations for Ollie Bearman. He might be in the best possible position of any of the rookies because he has some races under his belt. He's on a team in Haas that doesn't feel like it adds any extra pressure. Like, Haas is not going to win. They're not going to be in the hunt for the Constructors' Championship. So he gets the chance to come along and just earn points as Haas tries to improve on their 7th place finish in the Constructors last year. I think that being said, this will be a year where Ollie is going to have some highs and he's going to have some lows. I think the goal for him is to finish in the Drivers' Championship in that 10 to 12 range, because if he can consistently get some points, that will really help Haas. But he also has to be prepared for there to be some growing pains, and there will be some, because, again, he's 19 years old. He's not going to have it all figured out yet. And if he does, then Haas has stumbled upon a diamond in the rough. This is going to be his biggest test so far as a young driver, but hopefully the experience he got last year as a test driver and also those 3 races that he did perform as a reserve driver will help shorten that learning curve.
No, I appreciate that. And yeah, I'm really excited about Ollie for all of those reasons. He's a really talented kid, has been talented and had a lot of, showcased a lot of talent early on. The interesting thing is, like you said, the team he's on is kind of a good step for him because there's not a ton of pressure, but he's going to have Esteban Ocon as a teammate, which is also going to be very interesting because Ocon kind of lost his duel with Pierre Gasly at Alpine, and he's kind of moved out now. So it's going to be interesting to see how motivated he is, and if Ollie's beating him, how he's going to handle that. And I don't again, we always talk about it on this pod, teammate dynamics are very interesting. Ollie's a chill dude, but if Ocon's kind of frustrated or whatever as the senior driver there, things could get interesting.
Well, they hopefully don't have, Ocon and Bearman don't have the history that Ocon and Gasly have, which we've discussed on the show. So hopefully that helps. And also I think it helps that, like you said, Bearman is kind of a friendly guy. He's just kind of chill, down to go with the flow. And maybe that helps kind of any tension that pops up from time to time, which does on the tour. Maybe that helps the fact that he's just kind of a chill guy and just kind of goes with the flow. But again, I think also with Haas, there's just not a lot of pressure to win races. There's a profession, the real pressure is really, let's get some points and let's keep, steadily moving up. But they don't have the added pressure of some of the other rookies that are on better teams that are competing for not just drivers' championships, but constructors.
I feel like with Ollie, he has the talent to really take off. And with you saying, like, the lower expectations, him being a Haas, it's a good thing, though, because for him, it's just more getting up to F1 speed. And we've seen him in bits and pieces, both in a Ferrari and a Haas, at challenging racetracks as well, and he's thrived. So it's going to be interesting to see, can he carry that momentum? He has the talent to do so. He probably has the infrastructure. We always talk about Haas and how they should have gotten 6, but I think it's very important for him to just keep in the contention of points. I think that would be the biggest win for him, is if he is hovering around the points, if he's the fastest of the rest of the cars, kind of like beats Lance Stroll, competes with Fernando Alonso, beats the Alpines. I think that would set him up really to move into that Ferrari seat whenever it opens up.
I think those other ones, yes. Beating Lance Stroll, as we know, is not going to be a big deal.
Well, the bar's in hell
on
for
this
that.
show. But it will help him endear himself to us because we love that sort of thing. But no, I think the one thing that also was kind of interesting, like I said, last year he was a reserve driver, 1 race for Ferrari and then 2 for Haas. His best performance was in that Ferrari car. Of course, he does not have the Ferrari car next year. He has the Ferrari engine, but he has a Haas car. And so I'm wondering if that again changes the scope of his expectations, because he was 10th and 12th, which again, very fair, and I think is a good goal for him to try and get a couple points here and there, but just kind of be in the hunt every single race and compete for points every single race, because I think that's what Haas really needs at this time. Ocon is the one that may have a little bit more pressure to show that he shouldn't be with Haas, right? He should be, in the top 10, top 5 every single week. Whereas Bearman has the idea of, hey, if Ocon's getting points every week and I can grab points every now and then, that helps Haas move, up and challenge for 6th and 5th place. So I don't know if that changes the calculus of it, but the fact that his best performance is in a Ferrari car gives me the ability to say, I don't necessarily care that he wins a race or that he competes for podiums, because he's, not in a car that's designed to do that. He's in a car that's designed to compete, to be in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, and this will be the first, full season of the Toyota partnership with Haas as well. So there should be, ideally, some interesting upgrades, or maybe that Haas can make a jump. Like you said, they should have been the 6th place team, but that double podium in Brazil by Alpine, they were able to, I said Pierre Gasly was able to hang on to that for them. The other thing, though, I hear what you're saying in terms of pressure, but I do feel like there's a little bit of pressure still on Ollie Bearman and Ocon, for that matter, because Nico Hülkenberg, we've talked about it, there were randomly, and not just randomly, like fairly consistently, I think if you look at all the races, more races than not, there was a Haas in Q3. Right? It was Nico Hülkenberg was really, really good. Once they figured out the brake issue that Kevin Magnussen was dealing with, he was up there too. So those Haas's were pretty consistent in getting into Q3, getting those top 10 starts, and also trying to get points from there. Some of it depended on strategy, some of it depended on Kevin Magnussen not running into people and crashing. But I do think that car was quite good. And once Nico Hülkenberg was able to get a hold of it, and then eventually Magnussen, they were a real threat to continue to pick up points, where some of the other teams were scrapping, like VCarb, Alpine, Williams. Like, they were way better than all of those cars. And I think that Haas is going to be looking for a little bit of improvement. They have younger drivers. They have drivers who were kind of like the next big thing. Ocon was. He's still a very talented driver. He's not old by any means. But Bearman coming in as a teenager, and a very exciting one linked with Ferrari, where you think that if he performs well, that's going to be the natural step. Maybe when Lewis retires or something, he goes up to Ferrari. I feel like that, in addition to the drivers he's replacing, it feels like there is a little bit of pressure for him to at least kind of not drop off the way, like not have a big rookie drop off where you just kind of write this year off as he's a rookie. I think Haas is going to expect points.
I think so too. I mean, I agree with what you're saying in part. I also wonder, right? Like, a guy as chill as Bearman has been so far, right? And he's young. He kind of, I don't say he drives carefree, but he has kind of that, like, laissez-faire attitude with regards to, I'm just going to do my best and see what that is. And sometimes his best is in 7th and sometimes is in 12th. I wonder if that, again, you can place the pressure and the expectations upon him, but he doesn't feel it. I wonder what he feels. It's different when you're a reserve and you just, I'm just going to run this one race to just do this one race, and then I got to get about the chair. I wonder, now that he is in the chair full time, in the seat full time, is the pressure add up to it? Does he get a few more sweat bullets upon his brow as this goes on? And the dog days of summer, right? When they're having a race every single week, does that start to weigh on him? Because again, he's been able to kind of walk in, oh, this was hard, and then step away. It's a question for all these rookies, but I think, again, he doesn't have the pressure to know that from day one.
And the race that he got 12th in, that was the chaotic Sao Paulo Grand Prix. So, we can give him a little bit of leniency. There's a lot going on. The weather was terrible. So that did not help him. But in the sprint, when it was sprint qualifying, I think he qualified like 10th or something. So it was clear, like, there was something there. He can hover around that 9th, 10th range. And again, even his lowest place race was still a complete shit show of a race. And it was able to kind of navigate that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Donald, about reserve driver versus basically a full-time, having a full-time seat, because you come in and you do a good job or whatever, you just don't wreck the car. You show some pace, you do well in qualifying, or, maybe a strategy decision goes differently. You can say, logically, we maybe should have had a couple more places up or a few more points. You get the pat on the back. Hey, kid, thanks for your help this weekend. There ain't gonna be that many pats on the back. Like, this is your job now. This is what you're supposed to do week in and week out. And we know the F1 season is very long, so coping with that is gonna be interesting. To be honest, I'm really excited about Ollie Bearman, maybe the most. And I think it just says a lot about what he's done so far in the races that he's been in, and kind of the quickness that he showed, but also his personality. He seems like he can handle all of this.
Final thing for me, I think the one thing about Bearman that he needs to not do is look over his shoulder, because guess who's behind him? Nobody. There's no reserve driver. There's nobody who's like nipping at his heels. And again, that relieves some of the pressure too. It tells him that Haas is like, yo, you're our guy. Just go race. When they start kind of, making moves and saying, oh, we need a reserve driver for this or that, or we need this test driver, that's when maybe he starts looking over his shoulder a little bit. But for now, he can just race. And so I think that's important for some of these rookies who have that position to take advantage of that, to just, again, be not necessarily carefree, but run the race as if it's your race, because nobody is coming to take your spot. And you don't have the pressure to at least know that, hey, every detail has to be kind of scrutinized. He doesn't have that pressure, at least in the start. So he should take advantage of that.
Okay, so let's take a quick break, and then I'm going to introduce y'all to Isack Hadjar. Isack Hadjar. This has been fun. I've loved this kind of homework that I gave everybody, including myself, to dive into these rookies. Hadjar is 20 years old. He was born September 28th, 2004. Unlike Donald, I'm not going to tell you what I was doing in 2004 because it's none of your business. I
was in college. I'll tell you that. Wait, when was he born? What date was that again?
September 28th. There you go.
I was in law school. I was still in law school.
Okay,
yeah.
There you go. All right. So Donald was in law school. I'm still not telling you what I was doing. He's Algerian and French. He was born in Paris, France. He's going to be on a V-Car, Racing Bulls, AlphaTauri, Rosso, whatever you want to call that team.
Discover Card.
Correct. Oh, let me do the fun fact before I get into his personality a little bit. The fun fact is that I read that he got into motorsport after watching the classic movie Cars. He just apparently loved Lightning McQueen and the whole racing aspect of it, and he was very happy and was like, I'm going to do that. And you know what? I love that. It's just such a random thing, and it's like, one, it tells you how young he is, but also it's just like, you never really know how motivation is going to hit somebody. He's just a little kid watching Cars, and all of a sudden here he is, he's an F1 driver. That's kind of dope. I kind of love that. Okay, let's talk about his personality. Pray for V-Carb engineers, okay? Yuki Tsunoda and Isack Hadjar. Hadjar is a bit hot-headed on the radio, which is very interesting because every time Red Bull, like that's one of the things, one of their reasonings for not promoting Yuki is just a little difficult to work with, a little bit of a hothead, sometimes, gets a little rush of blood. Hadjar is the exact same way. He is very, very temperamental in the car. He does have a tendency to really kind of pop off quite a bit. Let me run through his bio real quick because he drove in the French F4 division in 2019 and 2020, then in the UAE F4 division in 2020. He was also in the Formula Regional Europe in 2021 and Formula Regional Asia from 2021 and 2022, where he caught a bit of an eye and signed with Red Bull in 2022, where he then jumped up to F3 and then F2 in 2023. In F3, he was in a tight title race and fumbled the bag quite a bit, to be honest. This was kind of a new era of him being a new car, new competition, and he did struggle quite a bit. He had several good performances that put him in good positions, but he struggled in sometimes different dreary conditions like Spa. The weather can be a little weird in Spa. And he didn't finish well. He finished off the podium at Zandvoort, crashed on the final corner of qualifying in Monza. And after all that, he went from leading to finishing fourth. His first season in F2 was a bit more of the same. Sometimes he scored points, other times he was crashing and doing weird stuff. We just talked about Ollie Bearman. These two have come in contact before, with Hadjar hitting him during a pit stop and damaged his own front wing and earned himself a penalty. He was also assessed a penalty for illegally overtaking another fellow rookie, Jack Doohan, at Baku. He crashed into the pit exit wall at Spa. Again, very mixed results in his first year in F2. He finished 14th. Now, I will caveat this and say that the team that he was with in F2 had some issues. So some of this might not have completely been on him, because he does get a little bit better, particularly in 2024, where he had a pretty good season. Still a little bit up and down, but he was chasing Gabriele Bortoleto, who eventually won the 2024 F2 championship, which is another rookie that's going to be on the grid. He ended up beating him, and one of the reasons that he beat him is because Hadjar's car stalled in the last feature race. Now, if you look at the points gap, it's very unlikely that Hadjar would have been able to overtake Bortoleto, but he was there. Basically, he was fighting until the last race or two, trying to win the F2 championship. So he does have skills. He did kind of put it together toward the end of the season, and 2024 was by far his best season overall in one of these cars, and he just missed out on a win. There's some poor luck, some him still crashing, but he was consistent enough in scoring points to be actually late in the season challenging for the Drivers' Championship in F2. And that's kind of what F2 is for. So you do see a finish like 14th, and then all of a sudden second, and you're like, okay, there's some skill there. Speaking of skill, I'm going to put this in the show notes because one of the more impressive things that Hadjar has ever done on the track, at least to this point, was avoid an absolutely awful crash with extremely quick reactions. Monaco, in the tunnel, there was a car that was kind of hugging the inside of the tunnel, and he was just coming around. He was on a flying lap. He was coming around, and he didn't see it until the last second, and he had to jerk the steering wheel and keep the car on line to pass. I don't know how he kept control of that car. So that, like, I'm not a racing expert in terms of, like, all of that, but I've listened to a few people, and they're like, that reaction time and keeping control of the car is one of the hardest things to do. Maybe that was like a extreme survival response, because if he didn't do that, it was going to be a really horrendous crash. But it also shows you this reaction time and ability to be soft enough with the car to keep it from getting out of control when he has to make a dramatic change like that in a split second. It was really impressive. And when I look at my expectations for him, it's hard to say. It almost feels like he's very much a stopgap solution almost for Red Bull in the moment, because I don't expect him to get promoted to the senior team. I don't think he has that level of skill. I think they want to see how he's going to match up to Yuki, because that's kind of like Yuki is their measuring stick. Then they figure out what they can do with you. If you can't beat Yuki, then they do something else with you unless you're Liam Lawson. So I don't know. I will say that there's a 17-year-old in the Red Bull system named Arvid Lindblad that they're very excited about. He feels like he's actually next. And the way that I have read that Red Bull feels about their drivers, Lindblad is supposed to be a lot better than Hadjar is right now. And if they can just get him, kind of massage his career to the point where they can get him into a good car and eventually get him in the V-Carb in their second team and then up into their first team, that's the kind of pathway they're looking at. So in terms of what the expectations are from him internally, they just kind of seem like they're waiting for him to kind of see what he can do against Yuki and then figuring out what it is before they bring up their hotshot teenager who's going to be even better than he is, projected to be even better than he is. So if they don't have that high of expectations for him, I really don't either. And I kind of feel like it's not a Jack Doohan situation, but it's not really the best way to start a rookie in their first season. Again, he has never, unlike Doohan, unlike even Antonelli, who we're going to talk about, unlike Who else has been in the car? Bearman. He hasn't been in an F1 car. He hasn't driven. Like, they haven't really called him up to do a lot of testing or anything in these cars or do a race or anything. He hasn't had to replace anybody. So this is going to be a brand new experience for him. And I don't necessarily know how it's going to work out, but I do expect him to be one of the most entertaining rookies that we have. Not only does he have a propensity to have like hot-headed radio messages, he also has a propensity to lose his head a little bit in battles and to also every now and then run into another car or a wall. Who knows what'll happen? And that stuff is always interesting and spices up races just a little bit. But in terms of performance, my expectations aren't all that high for him. Yuki will probably not feel like it's too much of a challenge to beat him week in, week out.
He might be the most interesting rookie in my mind because, one, like you mentioned, he has no experience in an F1 car. I have not seen him run on F2, and while he did well, I just haven't seen him run. There's also the fact that he's not the most important rookie in the Red Bull system. As you mentioned, there's a guy behind him, and then in Liam Lawson, there's a guy in front of him. And so what is Red Bull's expectations for him? I have no idea. Because, you know, as we know, the money team is used to kind of prop up the big Red Bull team, and really, most importantly, Max. Like Yuki has shown, he's like, yo, I'm not trying to sit here and just be Max's like third teammate over here. Is Isack going to do the same thing, right? And if that's the case, then does that render Visa Cash App kind of out of the picture when it comes to Red Bull's main job and their main goal here, which is to help Max win as many championships as possible and protect him when his teammate, whoever that is next to him, doesn't. And so I'm curious to see what they have in mind for him and what success in their mind for him really is, because like you said, that he's there, but it doesn't feel like he's going to be there for long. But what if he performs well, right? What if he and Yuki go on this tear, but at the expense of Max and his positioning? It's all questions that they just kind of put themselves in, and I don't know what that answer is, but that's what intrigues me about him, is that he's a guy who could make some noise both on the radio and on the track, but he also is just going to be glossed over in Red Bull's mind, and the focus and the pressure feels like it's more on Liam than him.
Interesting with Hadjar because I feel like he is the most volatile, where he might get you some points, he might crash out, both literally and figuratively. We don't know, but I think the weird thing is, how is he going to handle Yuki Tsunoda? Because Yuki's going to be on a revenge path, and also Yuki has beaten every teammate he has since Pierre Gasly left. Like, he beat Nick DeVries, he's beaten Daniel Ricciardo twice, he's beaten Liam Lawson basically twice. So now you have another rookie, and it's not even just like he's got a guy behind him and he's got a guy in front of him, but he also has Yuki, who's right there, who's also going to feel like, I should have this seat that Liam Lawson is in, and he's going to do what it takes. So can Hadjar handle that pressure as well? And that's something I'm curious about, because I mean, he seems to, like, I didn't watch many of his races, but if you're competing for an F2 title and an F3 title, you have to have some talent, because that's what the F2 and F3 is for. It's like, how good of a driver are you? And he showed he can be really good, but that adjustment and knowing the pressure of Red Bull, like, they will kick you out with no hesitation. Is he going to be able to handle that?
Spoiler, my answer is no. I honestly, I don't. Okay, so he is very young, and I don't really want to talk shit about him before his F1 career really gets started. But I think, like Donald said, he is in a tough position. He's got somebody ahead of him, he's got somebody behind him. I think the best case scenario is that he sticks with that Racing Bulls team, and if Yuki bounces and goes somewhere else, which he's probably likely to do, then maybe he stays, and then he's just kind of he's the new measuring stick. Can you beat this guy or not? And if you can't beat this guy, you're gone. If you can, then you're the one who gets promoted up to Red Bull, and we bring in another guy to see how they measure up. Like, it feels like that's his ceiling at the moment, and that's strictly from the scenario that Red Bull has placed him in. All right, let's get to it. Let's get to the golden child, Kimi Antonelli, the crown, the chosen one, Toto Wolff's favorite son. Let's go to Kimi Antonelli after a quick break. Kyle, tell us about the best driver who ever lived. I shouldn't do that to him. He didn't ask for this, but whatever. The best driver who ever lived, Kimi Antonelli. Let's go.
Kimi Antonelli, yes, the golden child, the next big thing. I mean, he's going to be the most interesting one, and I backed him as the rookie I think that'll do the best, and for good reason. So to start, he was born on August 26, 2006. He is 18 years old. He is the youngest rookie. I'm not ashamed to say what I was doing at that point. I was playing a lot of video games, Pokemon, Legend. I was waiting for the new Pokemon. I was waiting for Legend of Zelda. I was playing way too much NCAA football. So I'm not ashamed. I was 14 years old.
Wait. Don't act like mine was shame. I just ain't telling y'all because it ain't none of your business.
I am not. I'm just saying, like, I was 14 rocking video games and just being a high school freshman. So I don't care. But yes, Antonelli is the youngest on the grid. He is going to be driving for Mercedes. He is Italian. I know there's a thing going back. It's ironic that the Italian is driving for Mercedes while the Englishman is driving for Ferrari. How does that happen? No one knows. But he has had a good track record so far. I'll talk about it more, but he's won the Italian F4 championship. He's won the ADAC, which is another Formula 4 kind of regional aspect. Notable drivers like Lando Norris, Teo Pourchaire, Ollie Bearman, Liam Lawson, Felipe Drugovich have all raced in it. He was a champion in that. He also won the Formula Regional Middle East and European champion as well. He also was a gold medalist for Team Italy in the 2002 FIA Motorsport game. I don't know what that fully means, but he won gold, so I had to make note of it. Everyone that talks to him in interviews and talks about him, the biggest theme has been calm, whether it's on the racetrack or off the racetrack. He is kind of more of a calmer driver. He's quick. That's probably what has stood out the most when people talk about him. So I would see him, like, that's what his personality is going to be, more as the calm. We just talked about Hadjar and kind of how he's kind of a hothead, and it feels like Antonelli is the exact opposite. Fun fact, his father owns AKM Motorsport, and Kimi himself co-founded a kart racing team under that umbrella. So, again, he's doing all this, and he's been like a teenager this whole time. To dive in more on his bio, he was born in Bologna, Italy. Antonelli has been tabbed as one of the next great racing talents for good reason. He started kart racing at age 7. He joined the Mercedes junior team in 2018, so he was 12. He joined that. George Russell and Esteban Ocon are other notable Mercedes junior racing teams to make it into F1. Like I mentioned, he won the Formula 4 in Italy. Did that, winning 13 out of the 20 races. He won 13 of those, which is ridiculous. And then the ADAC, he won. There's 15 races. He won 9 of those. So kid was quick. Kid was winning a lot, and it just continued in 2023 when it was in the regional Middle East and European. Won both of those pretty comfortably. There's been a lot of reason why people tab him as like this next great thing and Total's favorite child, because there was at one point Total Wolff was willing to bypass the FIA's super license regulations. And for those that might know, there is an American driver, Colton Herta, who could not get a super license. So when people were saying, well, why is it that this kid in Italy who is 17 is going to be able to bypass it to get into Formula One, but this guy who has won pretty consistently and is also talented, part of the McLaren team, couldn't? That was one of the biggest things. Conveniently enough, the FIA was like, we're going to make tweaks. We're going to change the super license regulation, which more or less fast-tracked Antonelli to be able to get into Formula One sooner. He bypassed Formula 3 entirely, so he went straight into Formula 2 this past season. He was on Prema, where he was teammates with Ollie Bearman. Like with Bearman, Prema really struggled with the regulations, primarily the ground effect. So Bearman and Antonelli both struggled in the opening stages of Formula 2. Yeah, they were getting points, but it was not looking pretty. It wasn't until probably like later in the rounds, like kind of like races 6, 7, and 8, where Antonelli really started getting going. He had qualified 10th at Silverstone, but he ended up winning. That was his first win in Formula 2. And then unfortunately, the next race, he had to retire after getting into a crash. So the highs and lows of Kimi Antonelli. We'll talk more about those highs and lows later. He also got a second win over in Hungary. He did a test for Mercedes at Monza, and he was showing quickness, and then he crashed George Russell's car. So there's definitely a peaks and valleys with it. At the end of the Formula 2 season, Antonelli finished 6th in the standings. He had 2 victories, 3 podiums, 4 fastest laps. So again, the kid is talented, and rightfully so. As I mentioned, he has won at all of these ranks when he was 15, 16. That is insane to think about. Like I said, Total Wolff was willing to bypass super license regulations and stuff just to get Antonelli in the seat. Also, he has to replace Lewis Hamilton. So that is a tall task for any driver, let alone an 18-year-old kid. So I think there's going to be expectation that he competes, possibly maybe asking for race wins is too much, but Mercedes is going to feel like they are competing with Ferrari, McLaren, and Red Bull for that constructors. They're going to want wins. They're going to want podiums. And they're going to probably expect Antonelli to do that and hit the ground running. Also, the media is going to be expecting this. Like, there is a lot of pressure on this kid's shoulders to come in and hit the ground running. So will Antonelli get there? Probably not. Like, I think he'll consistently get in points. He might get a couple podiums, but asking for race wins is a big ask, pending, crazy stuff happening in the race. But I think he's going to be someone that is going to consistently get Mercedes in the points and get them in a position to compete in that area. But I don't think it's going to happen. The other aspect of it is they're going to have to live with the teething issues that's going to happen. Like I said, there's a lot of highs and lows with Antonelli. The kid is fast. He is very fast. He's a good driver. He does have the prone of crashing. He does have the prone of mistakes. That's going to be expected. Max Verstappen was basically saying the same thing. It's like, he's got the talent. He's got the personality, but he's going to make mistakes. He's going to have to learn from those mistakes. So I think that's going to happen. I think Mercedes will be more patient with him because they know this is a move for the future. And especially with the new regulations in 2026, that's when they're going to expect him to really, it's going to be like, okay, we gave you a year. We need results. We need you to compete with George, with, Lando, Oscar, the Ferrari drivers, Max. Like, we need you to be up there. And we're going to need it now because they're banking their whole future basically on Kimi Antonelli. George Russell will get the preferential treatment because he is a more proven commodity, but Antonelli has the highest ceiling, not just of, the rookies, but potentially most of the grid. Like, this is someone that people are thinking can win a driver's championship down the road. And I think that's a lot to ask, but everything that's pointed so far is he could do it. He might need some time. He's going to need some maturity and obviously learn and get battle tested. But the sky is the limit for him. And, Mercedes could have taken the safe route with Valtteri Bottas, who has a high floor but very low ceiling. I think Antonelli is going to have a very, very high ceiling, potentially a very, very low floor. It's a gamble. And you don't take a gamble on someone unless you feel very confident. And Total Wolff has pretty much said, I'm all in.
They've really done him a big disservice by unveiling him so soon after Lewis Hamilton was leaving. And they're like, we have this child who's going to be, he's the next one. And it's like, wait, hold on a second. Like, Lewis Hamilton has 7 world championships. Like, don't sell a kid in the same breath as that. And then they have him do his debut at a track in Italy. Of course he's going to be hyped up. And of course, after they hyped him up, he's going to want to show how fast he is. That's the recipe for crashing. And guess what? He went out there and he crashed. And now people are kind of like, okay, you have this kid who's really fast, but can he stay on the track? And so from that standpoint, I'm sure once you get into week-to-week races, you're going to see more little flashes of the talent that he actually has. Also, that Mercedes car, not all that easy to drive. We talked about it all last season. Has issues with warming up its tires. Worked very well in cold conditions. Didn't really work that well when things were warm. It was very temperamental. Sometimes it had bouncing issues of a couple years ago. They haven't ever figured out how to get maximum downforce in this era without those kind of bouncing problems. So without that, you really just lose the top end speed that you need. So it's not like the car is ready to win, which might actually work out in Antonelli's favor. But I do think Mercedes, they really kind of fumbled this in a way where I feel like it's not really fair to do to a teenager because he ain't going to win the driver's championship Like, he ain't winning it next year. He ain't winning it the year after that. He ain't gonna win it the year after that one. like, give him time and let's figure it out, because he does seem very talented, but give him time.
And the tough part is, I feel like Mercedes tried. I think they really were trying to ease him in, but the problem is, when Lewis said, I'm going to Ferrari, it was kind of like, oh, crap, we gotta get him in. Because a lot of people are saying, like, this Antonelli's being compared to Lewis and Max in terms of talent. And Toto Wolff missed out on Max Verstappen back in 2014. A lot of people like Toto's trying to rectify that mistake. So they tried, like, there was even points where it was like, maybe he can race for Williams in 2025, but Mercedes did not do a good job at easing him in, but they also tried their best, and it was kind of like, F it, may as well just do it now, because there's no better time to try and get him in.
Unfortunate thing for him is that in a race to determine who was going to be the most scrutinized rookie between him and Liam Lawson, he has one hand over fist. That pressure is already on him, and Mercedes put it on him. I think their outside media, but kind of connecting him to Lewis Hamilton and to Max and to George, like, they have placed this pressure on him, and I bet you some of the other rookies have too. Because, again, the other rookies, while we've talked about how they don't have as much pressure, it's because all of it's being pointed at him, and they won't get nearly the scrutiny that Kimi does if he does something bad or if he finishes 15th. The idea that Mercedes is going to try and give him pressure, they have painted themselves into a corner, because they have said that they want the pressure of going for constructors. They want drivers who can compete for championships. And that standard was set by Lewis Hamilton, who is now still on the grid, but trying to challenge that standard in another car, right? Like, so they have that direct pressure too, because it's not that Lewis Hamilton retired and Kimi can figure out a way to replace a living legend. He is going to be in the grid with them in the same paddock, on the same track. So he has to figure, and there's going to be those direct comparisons every week, especially if Lewis continually dusts him every single week. There's going to be that pressure even added upon that. So, yeah, I feel for the kid.
I think that's a really good point, and honestly, he would be doing himself a massive disservice if he's trying to compare himself to Lewis. You know what I mean? Like, on track. You know, if Lewis beats him, okay, Lewis should be beating you. He's in a Ferrari, which last year was a much better car than the Mercedes. And he's Lewis fucking Hamilton, right? Like, he should be beating a teenager at this point. Now, obviously, if Kimi beats him, I'm gonna be like, God damn it. but I also think this is an interesting year for him to debut anyway, because we're doing all the rookie drivers across 2 different episodes. There are that many rookies. So imagine in the rookie competition, first-year driver competition, how many of those kids are gonna be out there like, oh, he's the chosen one? Let me see what I got. Maybe I can elevate my status by beating him out. Oh, I'm in what? A Red Bull, a Racing Bull car, and I'm finishing ahead of Antonelli, the chosen one, in a Mercedes. Okay, tell me how that works. Am I now the chosen one, right? I can just see this having a lot of pressure, not just from the fact that he's at a really good team and has a really deep history and a lot of wins, but just he's going to have a whole lot of rookies out there alongside him that are probably going to try and show themselves in comparison to him. And I hope he's up for that challenge, because, again, Mercedes gave him a hell of a lot to do in his rookie season.
If the regulations in 2026 weren't there, he probably goes to Williams, potentially. But also, Carlos Sainz going to Williams kind of probably also threw that wrench in, where normally they would have had him go to Williams and then build away like they did with George Russell. But between Carlos Sainz signing for Williams and then you have these 2026 regulations, it didn't make sense to have them be in one car and then put him in a different car the next year. It's like, so I feel like that also played a factor, like those two, the regulations and Carlos Sainz going to Williams, because I'm sure Williams didn't expect to have Carlos Sainz on their team when the season started. So they're like, oh, we'll be fine. Maybe we'll have Antonelli just grow a year there. And then I was like, oh, we got Carlos Sainz. We don't got room for Kimi. Sorry, we're not cutting Albon. We've crashed enough. We cannot take that risk. And this is going to be for all the rookies besides, I guess, Liam Lawson and a little bit of Ollie Bearman. The adjustment of going from Formula 2, which 12, 13, 14 races, to Formula 1, where you're doing 24 and it's like back to back to back. Like, there's gap. Like, yes, you'll have some gaps, but it's like you might go from Austin to Mexico to Brazil back to back to back. You don't really get that as frequently in Formula 2. So I think that's going to be the other adjustment, is like, you're racing more, the races are longer. How are all these rookies going to adjust that? Like I said, Liam Lawson gets that slight edge because he's been in enough Formula 1 races where he's more used to it. But you're asking a lot of these kids, like, hey, I know you just did like 12 races. I need you to double that, and the races are longer, and they're faster, and there's a lot better people than you. Good luck.
With 2026 coming up, new regulation change. There's also a cost cap now, so teams can spend a lot of money, but they can't spend it directly on their cars. Like, you can spend it to get Adrian Newey, you can spend it to get Lewis Hamilton, but you are restricted in terms of your wind tunnel hours and also how much you can pay to build your car. Crashing won't be good. If you're having to rebuild that car and spend money on rebuilding that car, it's not going to be good for 2026. So another things all these rookies are going to be have a lot of pressure on is keeping the car in one piece, which is maybe why Williams and everybody was looking at Franco Colapinto and be like, I don't know, buddy. But we're still going to get so many rookies who could, like I mentioned, Hadjar crashes a lot too. He, especially his first year in F2. So if his first year in a series in a particular car takes a lot of adjusting, and some of that adjusting is breaking it from time to time, that's going to be interesting. So yeah, I'm super excited for this entire season to start. I'm excited for what all the rookies mean. Thank you very much, Kyle, for letting us know about the golden child, Kimi Antonelli. Thank you, Donald, for letting us know about Ollie Bearman, who still is going to be my favorite rookie. I'm kind of pipping him to maybe get the most impressive performances out of all the rookies. We'll see how it goes. Isack Hadjar, if you got F1 TV or anything, just keep that radio on all the time, just in case. Him and I don't know if you can just do it by team. If you can, that's the team to always have the radio on, because it's just going to be absolutely chaotic. But I'm really excited.
More monitors for that.
I know, right? Get yourself a couple monitors, one earbud each, just so you don't miss anything. But yeah, it's going to be a really exciting season. So thank y'all for doing this, and we'll be back to preview the season a little bit before it starts, but we have our if you missed part one of the rookies, we have our part one, which goes over the other three rookies that are entering in 2025. So thank you. For Donald, for Kyle, I'm André. Vroom, vroom, we're out.
Vroom, vroom, vroom.